All right, guys, welcome to Cup of Joe Canada. My name is Jason McNeil, and today we're going to talk about Zionism. Now, Zionism is not a topic that I want to really talk about. It's not something that I grew up comfortable talking about because it's always been something that was sort of clouded in this gray mist of like, don't do that, right? So recently, the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, came out and he said, and I quote, "Nobody in Canada should fear or be afraid to say they are a Zionist." Then he said, quote, "I am a Zionist," end quote. For this reason, I feel like it's appropriate to discuss Zionism because I'm a Canadian. He was the Prime Minister and he said he's a Zionist. Now, the first part of the statement, obviously, I have no problem with. Nobody in Canada should be afraid to say anything they feel regarding politics, religion, any of that stuff. Like what you think, what you believe, you should be free to say in Canada. So if you can say, I am a Zionist, you should also be able to say, I'm not a Zionist, or I'm an anti-Zionist. I don't like that movement, I oppose that movement. These are the options that you have. Again, if the Prime Minister can come out and say, I am a Zionist, it is open for public discourse at that point, right? Like there's no way around that part of the discussion. So, I guess for the intro or the context, what is Zionism? Right? What do you consider Zionism? Now, this is a very fraught topic in and of itself, right? Because here's the thing. You have Jewish people or Jews. You have Christian people or Christians. You have Israel. You have Israelis. You have Palestine. You have Palestinians. You have Zionism, which here's where we get sort of muddled. Jewish people, some are Zionists, some are anti-Zionists. Some don't care, I guess. Christian people, some are Zionists, some are not Zionists, some are anti-Zionists, right? But if you're an anti-Zionist, it's said that you are against Jewish people, right? That's because the Zionist movement, or Zionism, as it were, is essentially the repatriation right of Jewish people to the land of Israel or Palestine as you see it, right? So the concept of Zionism involves the inherent right of return, okay? So Zionism essentially is Israeli means Jewish. Jewish means Israeli. So if you are a Jewish person, or if there's a Jewish person, that person is a citizen of Israel. Regardless of where they live, doesn't matter. They can go to Israel and they can have a home, they can have a life. They're a citizen. That's it. Essentially because that is the homeland of the Jews historically, right? Like in the Bible and all that stuff. Now here's the thing. Lots of Jewish people, I see. It bothers me that I have to stutter when I say Jewish people because I have no ill will towards anyone. Jews, Jewish people, same thing in this context, right? Again, it's weird that that's uncomfortable, but it is a thing. So I'll be honest about it. So, lots of Jewish people don't believe they have an inherent right to Israel. Now, that's what Zionism is. Zionism is the belief that the Jewish people have an inherent right to the land of Israel. That they're an ancestral homeland and they have a right to it. The reason why they say that anti-Israel is anti-Jewish is because of the whole World War II Holocaust thing. Now, this is where we split with philosophies, right? There are people who believe Jewish people will not be safe on earth unless Israel is there to protect them. There are other people who believe If Israel didn't exist, Jewish people would be perfectly safe wherever they're from, right? So Polish people would be Polish, American people would be American. You understand what I'm saying? So like if you were a Russian Jewish person, you're Russian, your religion is Jewish, and you're fine if Israel doesn't exist. Other people believe if Israel doesn't exist, they'll kill you. They just think like there's not a lot of Jews in the world, and they'll be killed if they don't have a homeland to go to. Okay, so that's the basic concept of Zionism, right? Now, as a Canadian, no sort of real understanding of Israel and politics and whatever, just growing up as a Canadian, it always was weird to me that there's a Jewish state that we support, but we're founded on the concept of separation of church and state, right? Now, they would say, people would tell me, that Israel is not run as a Jewish country. Like it's not, the Jewish religion is not the law in Israel. It's secular. But it has to be run by Jewish people. The Jewish people have to be in charge of Israel. And that didn't make sense to me as a kid growing up. I was like, if we stand for separation of church and state and all that stuff, I don't understand why we are heavily supportive of a state that is specifically religion-based. Now, people who support Israel would say that's the only Jewish state. There are many states that are run by Christians, run by Muslims, run by Hindus. I would argue they're not exclusively run by that, right? Democracy means anyone can vote. A Muslim could conceivably be the Prime Minister of Canada. A Muslim was the mayor of London, at least. I'm not sure about the Prime Minister. I think Rishi Sunak? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, the laws don't stipulate that it has to be run by a certain sect of the population. So it always seemed weird to me that we would support this religious state or this religious doctrine towards a state, but we separate church and state on purpose. Like we do that as something that we're proud of. Okay. The next thing is, growing up, I just assumed, or I thought, I was led to believe, Israel just always existed as Israel, as the home of the Jewish people. It's not, that's not the case. I believe it was 1948. The globe, England, France, whatever, they carved out this space and they called it Israel. They said, okay, this is the homeland of the Jewish people, and Jewish people have the right to return there. Now, when it comes to right of return, what does that mean, right? Like, the fact of the matter, when I hear the Prime Minister say, I am a Zionist, I believe Jewish people are the rightful owners of that land, and they have the right to return there and be safe there and have that space. What I don't understand is that I'm not, like, ancestral wise, I'm not from here. I am an indigenous Canadian, as far as I'm concerned. I'm a native. I was born here. My mother was born here. My father was born here. My grandparents were not born here. So, if you are a Zionist and you believe the Jewish people have the right to return to that place and own it, run it, control it, they are the people of that place. So they have the right to it. Doesn't that also entail me finding either Germany, Ireland, or Italy, because these are the places my grandparents came from, and calling that my homeland and getting the hell out of here and leaving this place to indigenous Canadians? Because if you believe the indigenous people of any country have the right to come back after hundreds of years, thousands, it doesn't matter, they have the right to come back and take control of that area, land, and subjugate, I guess, people that live there. They would not say subjugate, they would not say it's an apartheid. But the fact is, 2,000 Arab Muslim people live in Israel. They can't be the leader of Israel. right? Like Israel can't be run by them. No one can migrate there and, like the vote, it has to be a Jewish state. That's the whole concept, right? So does Canada have to be an indigenous Canadian state? Do we have to give it back? Because there's no chance in hell that Justin Trudeau meant that when he said it, right? He was not talking about giving our land back to the indigenous people of our land. He was talking about that land over there, and that he feels like Jewish people are indigenous there and should be allowed to go back and have to maintain control for all of time. And I don't understand that. Like, I'm just being honest here. I don't understand it. It never made sense to me. As Western values, that doesn't make any sense. Now, I've also heard people comment on Lebanon and say that Lebanon is an example of what will happen to Israel, because Lebanon apparently was Christian for a time, and over time the population became more and more Muslim, and then eventually it became a Muslim country, and now Lebanon has a bunch of problems. That may be the case. None of this means that my understanding of separation of church and state and the safety of Jewish people around the world is affected. Like, to me, you are native to where you're born. It doesn't really matter where that is. You're born there, that's your native home. If 5 generations of my family have been here, then we are Canadian. There's no right of return to Italy. Right. Here's one. Imagine all the Irish people from around the world, the people who are descendants of Irish, because the Irish get around, right? We got around. We did it. So imagine all the Irish people from around the world decided we have the right to return to Ireland. It is our country. It's where we're from. We have a right. And they all went back. There is way more Irish people or descendants of Irish people around the globe than there is in Ireland. So when those people went back, if they didn't say, hey, let's learn this Irish tradition again, and let's get back to that, and if they just came and acted however they wanted, however they were raised, however they learned in the places they're from, then there would be no Ireland. Irish culture would cease to exist, right? And it wouldn't even be foreigners that did it. It would be Irish people based on the idea of right to return. See me, I believe I'm Canadian. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go back to Germany. I don't want to go back to Ireland. I don't want to go back to Italy. I don't have a place there. I don't have a culture. My culture is Canadian. Now, again, all of this may or may not make any sense regarding Zionism, but the point is that if you are a Canadian Jewish person, you're Canadian. I don't think of you as Israeli, right? I think of you as Canadian. If you're a Muslim person, I think of you as Canadian. I don't think of you as something else. But the fact is this: I don't understand why any group of people would have the right to return someplace that their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was from, and displace anybody who lives there at the time. Anyway, do Jewish people have the right of return to Israel? Is it okay if they displace people who are currently there? I guess that's the question, right? I'll close this out just by saying that the biggest problem that we have in settling this conflict seems to be history. Okay? Because the fact is this: I don't care what the history is. I'm not here for the history, I'm here for my life. I'm not here from the history, I'm not here for the future past my death. I'm here from when I'm born to when I die. So here's where we are. We have 2 groups of people fighting over land on Earth, right? That's what it is.